Right now we're going to talk about games we love to hate. And starting off is going to be panelist Rob Carabello.
All right, so I am not sorry that I love to hate the Grand Theft Auto series. To put this in perspective, just about 2 or 3 days ago, I was in a GameStop. Unfortunately, circumstances have driven me there. And an advertisement for the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 5 described the game as, and I quote, as exciting as a fast ride in a stolen car, which I think is indicative of really the whole ideology behind the Grand Theft Auto games and why they're terrible. For one, from a more kind of cultural, enlightened perspective, their games, like all the mob movies from which they're drawn, glorify organized crime and unorganized extreme violence. Now, I won't say that not unlike every other gamer ever, I haven't, picked up San Andreas or GTA 4 and done a bit of mass massacring as a bit of catharsis. But that doesn't mean that it's a good game. And it's not, I don't know, anytime I played any of the Grand Theft Auto games, they're just never good. They're never well designed. I can never figure out where I'm aiming or exactly how I can aim at what I want to aim at. And then you have the whole organized crime aspect and the whole massacre aspect that's a fundamental aspect of every single Grand Theft Auto game since Grand Theft Auto 3. And just in the advertisement I talked about, you have two criminal acts, stealing a car and speeding, described as a fundamental appeal of a game that people are supposed to buy. And I don't know how that's supposed to speak well of gaming or of gamers as a culture or as a cultural group. I think when we endorse that kind of material, we really kind of invite the criticism that we hate so much from people like, Joe Lieberman. And that's why I love to hate Grand Theft Auto. It's wanton destruction and vice and avarice for no purpose other than itself and being bad. So there you have it.
There you go. Next up is Commander John Shepard.
The game I most love to hate is the game Dark Souls. Never have I spent 2 hours on a game, accomplished about 15 minutes of progression, and had so much fun doing it. That game you can literally spend hours and get nowhere because of how difficult the game is. I started off playing the game thinking, okay, so this game will probably just have a lot of really difficult bosses because you hear all difficult things about it. And I go through the tutorial level pretty much and only struggle with the boss, and it takes me maybe 3 or 4 lives to get through it. And I'm normally a fairly good video gamer, so I don't usually die in the original tutorial level. And then I get to the first real level, and I get demolished by the little enemies that are spawning. And I make it through, and I find I'm at the boss with maybe 1 health potion out of the starting 10. And I fight the boss, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I can beat this guy with just 1 health potion. He destroys me in probably 4 hits, and I'm using the heavy armored character. So far, I've only managed to actually beat maybe 2 or 3 of the bosses in the game, and I'm still plugging away at it. But the reason that I enjoy this game so much is because at no point do I feel I cannot pass this part. It always seems possible, if not very difficult. And that's what keeps me addicted and keeps playing and sacrificing character after character after character against these bosses to finally beat it.
Yeah, that's an interesting, the almost there mechanic. All right, John Smith, what do you think?
Well, the game I love to hate, because I hate playing it, but I keep playing it, is Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike Source specifically. The problem I have with it, I mean, it's fun to play, and I keep playing it because it's like every once in a while you go through and you're the last player, and you end up killing their entire team and save the game, and it's just really fun. And there's 3 choke points, and basically the way the game works, and I can't understand that because I'm a big Quake 3 style, like urban terror, just crazy 90 miles an hour. You go through at a normal speed, and your head's in one spot. They can just hold their gun in that spot, and that's all the game is about, is just getting instant headshots and killing people really easily, and then waiting 10 minutes. And I can't do that, but I keep playing because I really want those really fun times that happen every once in a while, where it's tactical, you're moving around, you're playing against other people's minds, but most of the time it's nothing. It's running and dying. Or running and killing really boringly.
All right. And so finally with me, I've been playing through the Humble Android Bundle 6. One of the games in there is Stealth Bastard Deluxe, or SBD, and I hate to love that game, and I love to hate the game. Initially, because I had this whole plethora of games thrown at me, I got the bundle and 10 games, and I played like the first 5 or so levels of the like 100 or so, and I'm like, this is boring, this is dumb, there's so many better games out there. And after I had played absolutely all of Waking Mars, I hit this, and at its core, SBD is really a good puzzle game, but it's also an evidence of every single anti-pattern of a good puzzle game I can think of in it. It has puzzles where the checkpoint is there's a checkpoint, there's a really tedious puzzle, and then there's a fiendishly difficult puzzle. So every time I die at the fiendishly difficult puzzle, I have to go through the tedious one again. There's points at which there's really just a 50-50 chance of whether or not the bad guy's going to detect and kill you in your hiding spot. And that's the only hiding spot the devs give you. So you just sit there and you go through this whole jump process and move this and there, and then you hide, and you get to flip a coin on whether or not that round is actually where you get through. And of course, there's more and more. There's a really odd issue with the checkpoint system, whereas I could solve a puzzle backwards. Like I could go up and then get here and then fix this, and then the checkpoint is assuming I've already finished the other half of the room. So I lose the checkpoint and I have to go through the other entire half of the room to beat it. There's other glitches where I had to restart the level just because some AI thing went off. And every time I just get bored and I'd say, I've got better things to do, and go play FTL. And then I'd find myself coming back to it and trying again, coming back to it and trying again, and then dying because the controls are horrid. Did you know that up is not jump? I mean, there's a dedicated C is the jump button, up is the interact button, and I don't know what form of drugs the devs were smoking when they decided up is not jump, because I've died so many times because I'm a gamer. I've been gaming all my life. But I kept coming back to it because at its core, SBD is still a good game, and I beat it, and I'm not going to go back and go through the plethora of annoying unlockables, but I beat the basics. So that's 4 different games, 4 different things we love to hate about games, 4 perspectives. Now, of those 4 perspectives, what makes a good game? Obviously involving a lot of political stuff like Grand Theft Auto. Might help with sales because any press is good press, but it doesn't actually impact the quality of game. What do you think?
Well, if I can just add a little perspective here, I've been playing I Am Alive recently, which I think is a prime example of the worst kind of game possible. For a plethora of reasons, the first of which, to kind of draw from a number of examples y'all have given, is that it's difficult, and this happens with Grand Theft Auto too, it's difficult in places just for the sake of being difficult. It's not difficult in the sense, like Dark Souls, that it's a challenge where you feel like, oh, if I could just execute this one thing better, I see where I died, or, I didn't initiate a counterattack. I see where I made a mistake, and it was possible that just by being better at the game, I could have done better. In that sense, even games like Angry Birds manage to drive you to think like, oh, I could be better, because you see where the bird didn't knock down the tower, but you're like, oh, if I could just hit this angle, if I can just find it the right way, then I can achieve it. And I think in that sense, when a game is difficult for the sake of you can do this better, you can be more exact, you can be more precise, sometimes you can just have better luck. I think that's good game design. If you can keep the player coming back because they want to get better at the game. When a game is just difficult for the sheer sake of, oh wow, this is, so damn hard, that's bad design when you're just making it hard for the sake of being hard. So, maybe there I'm not so much saying what's good is what's bad, but, you only know what's good if you know what's bad. So that's what I have to contribute to that. Difficulty should always make you want to be better at the game. It shouldn't make you exasperated at the arbitrariness of the way the game is set up.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that kept dragging me back to SPD was a lot of puzzle games, you can figure out the solution by looking at what the current puzzle has given you. Well, they gave me a platform to jump on. Maybe I need to jump on that platform. SPD is terrible at dropping hints. Initially, this has frustrated me. It's like, oh man, I can't be uber elite and finish the puzzle like that. But it did keep dragging me back. So I'm like, well, wait, no, they did. And then I'd go back and play that level, and then I'd find myself 3 levels through and go, wait a second, I was supposed to be in bed a half an hour ago. Oh. So I think difficulty isn't a problem. Brutality is. It's like, man,
that's a good point.
This game's so brutal because you need to just do something that's really hard for the sake of being hard.
Yeah.
Now the Counter-Strike example brings a counter example in there, in that that was the only true multiplayer game we brought up, and the issue and the reason we love to hate it is because it can provide such a beautiful gameplay experience rarely, and so it almost has that Skinner box lottery thing going on where you're like, well, I'll just play another game and maybe this one will be the one that's fun, but the difficulty is brought on by how people play. Now, do you think that can influencing the player base will result in a better game, or do the game devs really have no choice in that matter?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about the statistics of, what draws certain different communities and what doesn't, but I think that's kind of if I can say so myself, a problem with the multiplayer game model. I can think of times when I was playing Killzone 3 or Halo 3 or Risk Online even, that, I had a really good game because of the people I was playing with, because of the way the game was set up. But then that's such a fleeting experience, especially with Killzone, because when I got into it, it had come out 13 months before, so the only people playing it were people who had all the guns all leveled up and everything. There are times when it's a miserable game in games like that, either because, people have all the equipment leveled up, or because they've just been playing it for 13 months, or a combination of both, that, sometimes it's not fun, because it's not fun to get stomped in any game. But then, the flip side of that is that when you have that great match where your pulse is pounding and you're like, oh God, I can't die this one more time, there's nothing to match that experience. So I don't know how much of that can really be said to be the fault of the game developers, as much as it's just an inherent risk in a game that's fundamentally multiplayer, that sometimes you're going to have a great match that's better than anything you could ever hope for. And other times, depending on the game and the community, maybe most of the time, you're going to have a shitty time. And I don't think there's really a way to influence that, because you can always count on people to not be able to count on. So that's my perspective on that, at least.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that a really good game is one that you can be absolutely destroyed over and over, but you're having fun because you're learning. Mm-hmm. That's why I don't like Counter-Strike, is because no matter how much I learn about how this game works, someone's still going to just get a headshot on me every time and nothing's going to happen. And I'm going to compare it to Urban Terror again. There's all kinds of different ways I can do things. The game designer can design a game while giving the player a lot of control and a lot of space that they can move in different directions. And that allows for a more fun game and a better game.
But I think there's something to be said for linear gameplay. I mean, you can play Skyrim all you want, but you know, to go to my classic example, you play through the missions in Spec Ops The Line, and the linear experience is, in a certain sense, a lot more fulfilling than something that's more open, where you get to choose everything.
Yeah, I think in total non-linear gameplay, PlanetSide 2 is an excellent example of just the difficulty, and it's not so much difficulty on the part of the game developers. They could have added a better tutorial, and they say they're working on it, and they've got a little place to screw around, but it's still a very difficult game in terms of difficulty curve. But it's also a very good game to learn at. The killer app of PlanetSide 2 is the fact that you can push one button and join a team of people already working. And you can join in their voice chat, and a lot of the players are really just helpful and saying, "Oh no, you don't buy this gun, buy that one, because I see you really like to get in and mesh, fight close, and you want this gun because it fires better at close range," and things like that. So, and the devs have done their part, not so much in developing the game, but in developing the community. They're very active in all the different places the game's discussed, Twitch TV, Reddit, all that. So I think that's a good example of how to make a game that's difficult but learnable. If not like, well, you need to run to this side of that monster. It's more fluid.
Yeah, and you know, there is that sense, I'll try to be brief here since I've talked a lot already. There is that sense in which, you know, as much as what I said earlier I think does still apply, the developer is still responsible for their property. Because on the one hand, you have PlanetSide 2, like you're mentioning, where people are kind of helpful, you know, they'll say like, oh, get this, you know, don't do that. If you want to be successful, here's the course of action you should take. Whereas if you buy an Xbox 360 and you hop on a Halo 4, you're gonna, you know, like, oh, you fucking noob, faggot, like I'm gonna teabag your corpse, you know. There's...
Or Counter-Strike, where you ask, how do I vote, and they say press F10 and then enter.
Yeah, like, you know, there's that sense in which, you know, I don't know if the developer is responsible for it there, but the community in a game like PlanetSide 2 is fundamentally different from the community in a Counter-Strike or in a Halo, or, as much as I love it, a Killzone 3, where, you know, you die and you don't get a, you know, helpful suggestion from your teammates. Hey, here's a different course of action you might want to take. You get, oh, you fucking noob! How dare you not be already an expert at the game? Mm-hmm. How dare you not know what you're doing?
Yeah. We're running out of time. It's been a really fun talk. I hope you enjoyed watching it. But I think that a great place to go from here is PlanetSide 2 is a fundamentally team-based experience, whereas Killzone or Halo isn't. But then again, so are MOBAs, and MOBAs have been described as some of the most toxic communities in gaming. What's the difference between them, and what can you as a player or the developers do to improve that? So hopefully we'll talk about that next week. I know we would talk about indie games this week, and we totally didn't. But
thank you, all of our fans.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. We're not sorry.